Hi, I'm Karlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Karlin Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, karlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream Monday through Friday live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or maybe a couple minutes after if I'm running late. Mondays are usually a busy day. I appreciate everyone hanging out. On Saturdays, we go live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for Socialism Saturday. And on Sunday, I rest. And what we talk about on this show is we do deep dives into all things related to the culture war. And one of the things that I like to do, and I think that some of you are crazy enough to come on this little journey with me, is we like to watch trainings and presentations from start to finish from the far left and from the far right. We do not discriminate. I hate the far right just as equally as I hate the far left. But today, we are going to be continuing with I won't call it a little bit of a series, but maybe kind of like an investigation that we started last week. Because as you will know, I will take you on a trip back to last week. Last week, I was kind of last week, I happened to unearth this master list of like hundreds of conferences targeted at trans and queer youth. And I've been working my way through this list of conferences, and it is crazy the amount of material that I'm coming up with. But in the course of doing my research, I stumbled upon to the fact that on the Hofstra University YouTube channel, they hosted and videoed sessions from an anti-fascist conference. Literal Antifa conference at Hofstra University. Hofstra University, for people who don't know, is a private university in Long Island that costs, well, many tens of thousands of dollars a year to go to. Is an extremely expensive university. And they, several months ago, about 8 months ago to be exact, if you go onto their YouTube channel, you can actually just see it because it's on their effing YouTube channel. They hosted a quite literal Antifa conference. Here, I'll just show it to you. It's really easy to find. If we scroll back about 8 months on their YouTube channel, where does it start? Here it is. Antifa Culture Warriors, Antifa Roundtable, Antifa as a local anti-colonial project, Antifa Conference Keynote, Antifa in the Streets, Contemporary European Antifa, Teaching Antifa, gender inequity. I have to assume that had to do with Antifa, but maybe not. Communicating Antifa strategies, building a local Antifa movement, challenging the appeal of fascism, etc., 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 etc. And so last week on this channel, we watched the presentation challenging the appeal of anti-fascism, and we finally got our definition of fascism, which I know no one who watches my content on a regular basis will be surprised to learn that the definition of fascism, as given by the PhD economics professor, who's also a Democratic Socialist, that presented the challenging the appeal of fascism presentation, the definition of fascism that was offered at Hofstra University is that fascism is free market capitalism. And if you don't believe me, I have a clip on the channel. You can go back and watch it from last week. Anyway, so we watched that one last week, but there was another one that I wanted to watch. And the other one that I thought would be, well, worthy of our time and maybe good for a Monday morning stream is the Roundtable of local Antifa activists. And this roundtable is about an hour and a half long, so we really do got to get into it because I have something I need to do at 7 p.m. But we're going to watch a good bit of this presentation today. We'll try to get through as much as we can of local Antifa activists. I thought that would be a good use of our time. Does anyone else think that would be a good use of our time? Let me know by mounting the like button. I did mention we got to get into it rather quick, so let me just do a quick promo. Of course, if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business because I am 100% funded by you, please make sure you are signed up to my Substack, which is Carlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. I break down the woke ideology in plain English. I keep you up to date on what's going on in the world. We do not only written content, also video content on this channel that's a nice complement to it. Lots of stuff going on the Substack. And I mentioned I have something to do at 7 p.m. Well, at 7 p.m., you can actually join me because at 7 p.m. every single Monday, I host a community Zoom in my supporter community. And basically, it is a private, unrecorded Zoom call where we talk about whatever is going on in the world, whatever we feel like. Now, if you are a paying supporter in my Substack for $8 a month or $80 a year, what you need to do to get into that supporter Zoom call at 7 p.m. is to go to this here Unwoke Roundup email, click on that, and then you want to go all the way down to the bottom of the email. And underneath this red box, when you are a paying supporter, this red box will not be here. What you will instead see is a list of links. One of those links is going to be labeled the Monday Community Zoom. So get into that post. Come find the Monday Community Zoom link at the bottom of it. Supporter perks are always at the bottom of the Unwoke Roundup newsletter. And you can come and join us at 7 p.m. to, interact with people in the community, stuff like that. Where God, I have a bot already in my chat, not our bot, a porn bot. Anyway, if you want to join us, that link is available there, and we will be we will welcome new people into our community. We got a great group, and I'm looking forward to the call in a little bit. Nick Incognito says, "Tip jar. Wife said teachers were lying to her." Aha, aha. That only took 3 years, didn't it, Nick? And then, of course, guys, you can also support the work I'm doing by heading over to unwokeart.com, which is my merch store. And, listen, I do have the limited edition Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt that is on sale now. And this is a t-shirt, of course, with Trump giving the indictment tour victory sign. It also has a printed list of all the indictments on the back. And don't worry, apparently Trump is getting indicted in Georgia. And so when the indictment in Georgia is official, I will update the Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt with the additional indictments that have come out of Georgia, because this t-shirt is inspired by a concert t-shirt that you would get that has all those tour dates on the back. They're just adding some additional tour dates for Trump. That's all it is. And so when Trump gets indicted in Georgia, which should be any minute now, I will be adding those indictments to the back of the Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt. This is available exclusively in the Unwoke art store. Don't ignore all those Chinese knockoff sites that have stolen my design, because guess what? They don't actually have the back part of the design printed on it. Yes, exactly. Vince is like, you can get one now, the current indictment tour, and then that'll become a special edition, because as soon as the new indictments come out, the current indictment list will never be printed again. So you can get like a before and an after. All right, guys, let's jump right into it, because this is an hour and a half long roundtable and I don't have that much time here today. So let us enjoy our local anti-fascist roundtable from Hofstra University. Thank you, Hofstra, for platforming literal Antifa and allowing them to talk to us. We can't wait to see what we learn. Guys, please do mount that like button for me, or do whatever you want to the like button. If you want to gently pet the like button, if you want to caress the like button, if you want to punch the like button, although that's a little bit rude and I wouldn't recommend it. If you just want to shake the like button's hand, you can do whatever you want to the like button, but just make sure you and the like button have been introduced. And let's get this party started, kids.
Very jam-packed two-day event, and I'm grateful to everyone who has the stamina to be here. So this is a roundtable on local anti-fascist activism. So a lot of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of days in theory, or, that people have observed people doing, we actually have people here who are doing this work on the ground from the surrounding community. And I know that Long Island and...
Hang on, we got a super chat from a free-thinking dog. Atlanta here. How is Trump being indicted by a corrupt Fulton County prosecutor and not by the state if it's a state election issue? I think that's a great question. It's sadly not a question for me because I am not a lawyer, but I think that is a great question for the obviously corrupt Fulton County prosecutor. And I just don't know what to say, man. Just add it to the list. That's all that it is. It's just another tour date on the Trump victory list. And when he defeats the indictments, he's going to come out even more powerful than he was before. And I say that as someone who's not even voting for Trump. How ironic. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it.
Suburbia in general at times gets a bad rap for being kind of a difficult place politically. And it often is. But there is a lot of good work being done. And these are some of the people who are doing it. Some of our panelists have been stuck in traffic. So we are going to start and they will join us up on the stage.
Antifa, always late.
When they are able. So I'm going to introduce chair, the person who will be facilitating the roundtable discussion. And then I'm going to pass the baton to her for the rest of the event. And that is my colleague and now my friend, Heather Bennett from Santa Monica College. So please welcome Heather and let's go.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Heather. Nice to see you. Did you bring your mask?
Remarkably quiet, I think, through the conference.
Hang on. I'm going to turn down my mic volume because they're not very loud.
So let me just introduce myself a little bit more. I earned a PhD from University of Pennsylvania, and
we know University of Pennsylvania. They're real Marxists there.
And
how does my sound in relation to them, guys?
My research on the competing construction and competing narratives of the Paris Commune during the 1870s by politicians of the early Third Republic, through which they defined themselves in front of the French electorate. So the use of memory politics, creation of foundation narratives, national identity construction, and that kind of stuff.
Good to see you, Sam. I hope you're doing well.
To me, it still is. Okay, so let me introduce the two panelists that are here, the three panelists that are here. Hi. Yeah. Okay, so Philip Dalton is a professor of rhetoric and public... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Philip Dalton is a professor of rhetoric and public policy. He's also the director for Hofstra University's Center for Civic Management. And he also, I have to flip you.
Okay, guys, as a reminder, I cannot control the volume at which socialists stream their media. Okay, we are very experienced in this. Socialists always suck at audio. And so, for the sound to go up for everyone, we all need to work together, which is I will turn down my microphone volume, and you on your end need to turn up your personal volume. Okay? I can't do that for you. I have maxed out the volume of the presentation. And so if I turn up the volume on the browser, which I can do, it's going to result in also turning up my microphone volume. So I'm going to sound really effing loud by comparison. So we all need to work together here. There's only so much I can do. If you want me to have a more advanced sound system, then go ahead and subscribe to the Substack for $8 a month or $80 a year, because that's got to come from somewhere. And right now, I have budgeted the money from the Substack into conference infiltration, okay? And so that's just the way it goes, guys. We do the best we can. Murphy's Pool, did you watch Tucker's interview with the former Capitol Police Chief? I heard about it. I have not watched it. I don't know if I will. I don't know. Should I watch it? Like, let me know if you've watched it in the chat. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. Anyway.
To the other thing. Yes, he's also involved in local social media work where I initially wrote infiltrates, and then I read it more closely, where he peruses local right-wing social media apps such as Telegram, Truth, Gab, etc., which I'm assuming is known to locals. I'm from California, so
she doesn't know what Gab is. Oh, how lucky for her.
And then he posts about their goings-on in local news and a Facebook.
Wait, so this is a college professor who spends all his day trolling around Truth Social and Gab looking for things to complain about? There's not even anything going on Truth Social. Like Gab, I promise you, you can find stuff to complain about on Gab. Like, there is no end to the white nationalists and the anti-Semites and the neo-Nazis that exist on Gab, okay? He's gonna be writing about stuff forever. I just think it's a little bit odd for someone who works in a professor-like position at a college to spend his days trolling around Gab. Well, White Wizard Alex, ain't nothing I can do about it. Ain't nothing I can do about it. We have reached the end of our solutions. So it is what it is.
Page that he runs called Huntington
Voices.
Huntington Voices. So this is Dr. Dalton. Thank you. Okay, and then Nathan Stange. Oh, I did it. Stange. 3 times. 3 times in 2 days. So Nathan Stange, he's a Kansas native. He's a parent. He's a local parent and a community activist. He's particularly interested in legal justice reform, cannabis justice, and he's organized around various issues with Nassau County, DSA, and Bend the Arc, Jewish Action. And he was the facilitator for the anti-racism project. So this is.
I mean, can we just refrain from pretending that white nationalism isn't real? Because it is real. It's absolutely real. Like, this is, if you're going on Gab, you will find real white nationalists, real neo-Nazis, real anti-Semites. It's not fake. They're not secret leftists. Can we stop pretending that this isn't a real thing, conservatives? Honestly? Because it's like, we all know it's real, and you guys look ridiculous when you say that it's not.
Nathan. And then Shoshana?
Yes.
Shoshana, thank you. Okay. So Shoshana Hershkowitz, did I pronounce? Okay, yep. Good. So Shoshana Hershkowitz, who's glad has come. She's a K-12 and higher ed teacher for more than 25 years, statewide organizer.
Nope, it's not wildly overplayed. It's actually wildly underplayed. There are far more of those people than anyone dare want to admit, and I know that because I spent months and months and months and months and months deeply embedded looking into them. It is not dramatically overplayed, it is dramatically underplayed by everyone.
Of education and childcare at Citizen Action of New York. She's a lecturer as well at Stony Brook University, and she's founded the organization. Thank you. She founded the organization Suffolk Progressives following the 2016 election of Donald Trump for ordinary citizen engagement. So welcome the panelists that have arrived.
I complain about all kinds of nationalists, John, so no, that's incorrect. Sorry.
And Rachel, who was here last night, so I'm assuming she is coming, but do you want me to just introduce them when they arrive? Okay, I'll wait. So that said, and I closed my own notes. So I've been here in the audience for the last 2 days, and I think that something that I've distilled in listening to all of the panels, and it was really just so well organized, and it was so well put together, and the themes of each of the panels were so consistent. And what I have distilled from this is that there's a common.
Well, this super chat is not correct, but we'll read it anyway, and then I will correct it. Lived in Georgia for all but a few years. The only white supremacy I met at all were Democrats. Grandparents all racist, all Democrats to this day. Well, it is true that there are a lot of racist Democrats. There are also racists, real ones, white nationalists. There's a whole white well-being movement. There are neo-Nazis. There are anti-Semites. These people have built entire schools to educate white children and only white children about white well-being and white positivity as a homeschool program for Christian fucking nationalists. So don't, like, you guys, honestly, we can spend the entire time arguing about this if you want, and instead of watching the Antifa presentation, but you guys are stupid and you look stupid if you keep denying that these groups exist. They obviously exist. They clearly exist. I've documented them on my own fucking Substack. You can go on to Gab any single day of the week and find these people. It's not even hard. Like the constant denial, secret leftist. It makes you guys look stupid. And it honestly makes you look more racist when you cover up for this bullshit by saying, it's not real, they're just Democrats. It's not real, they're just Democrats. So we can keep arguing about this if you want. Thank you for the money, but you're wrong. I'm sorry, you're just objectively wrong. Are white nationalist groups generally more disorganized than radical? Nope. White nationalist groups are extremely organized, and I know that because I've been in their secret telegrams. They're extremely organized. White nationalist groups are actually far more organized than any other group on the conservative right, like by a mile and a half. Yeah, but hold more in common. Nope, they don't. They do not hold more in common with Democrats. That is not true. You can keep paying me money to lie to yourself, and I'll take your money and I won't feel bad about it. But you are not correct. You are putting on blinders to not see what you don't want to see, when in fact it's right in front of you, been documented a million times over. Like, you're wasting our fucking time, bro. Again, thank you for the money, but you are not correct. You are ill-informed, either because you don't want to be informed or because, I don't know, maybe you're not smart enough to see what's right in front of you. I have no effing idea, but you are not correct by any measure. All right. Does anyone want to keep arguing with me? Or do we want to watch the panel?
question that I think we're all a little bit frustrated about still. Marianne, I think, vocalized it earlier, and that is, to quote Lenin, what is to be done? That question, I think, still remains. I don't know that we're going to come up with an answer here, and even if we did, it might be very local. So it's not going to be, a huge answer, but what is to be done? And from the panels and from all of the really, really well put together papers, the prescriptives that I myself have pulled out or kind of pulled together from the different panels is a, what is this, 4-prong approach to anti-fascism. And I think I would want to start by asking the panelists in this roundtable what is to be done. And in terms
Can we
of
define anti-fascism?
Specifically around the 4-pronged approach that I'm constructing in my mind about what is to be done. And that is tackling the issues of labor, race, the environment, and female autonomy, women's autonomy.
All of those issues relate directly back to capitalism in the minds of these people, just so you're aware.
I guess I will start with you, Dr. Dalton.
Wow. I don't know if I can answer those questions. I'd say in my own little way, I think it's important to reveal what people are doing on the right. And so, as you noted, I hang out in these right-wing social media platforms and find their content. And I select the worst of it, screen cap it, and share it. And I do that to...
I'm going to bet you this guy doesn't even know what this guy probably hasn't even broached the real problem on the right. I'm going to look into him after this and see what research he's done on Gab.
Shed the light of day on it so that people see just what awful stuff is being shared and circulated. But as you also mentioned, I post this stuff in a page called Huntington Voices, which kind of combines
Huntington Voices. Let's look that up right now.
Political shitposting with conventional politics. So I'm showing these awful things, and then at the same time, I'll state that there's an endorsement for a local candidate. If you're there for more than five sweeps of the finger, you realize it's quite clearly a left-leaning site. But it's all written as though, look what I found. This is interesting. Local person posts this comment. One that was most egregious recently was somebody had taken the time to re-edit the Friends opening song to colorized images of leaders of the Third Reich.
Yep, happens on Gab all the time.
And it opens with Reich. And then you go through boomerang videos of Hitler and Goring and Goebbels and the rest. And then with the post, it says, get over your white guilt, admit that it's funny. And as soon as I posted that, within about 5 or 6 minutes, somebody had screen capped that I had done that and reposted it there, that they were being watched. And about 10 minutes later, that had been removed. And they've been a little bit more careful about the nature of what they post. But it was really, to answer your question, the thrust of what I'm doing is just trying to expose what folks in our community.
I see. We're still arguing with me. All right, White Wizard Alex, if you want to waste all our time by arguing with me, you're welcome enough to do that. Number one, didn't stay on Gab long enough to find the white nationalists. So you stayed on Gab less than 30 seconds is what you're saying. Because if you're on Gab for any length of time at all, I'm talking 5 fucking minutes, you will find white nationalists on Gab. If you cannot find white nationalists on Gab, then I'm sorry, White Wizard Alex, you might not be smart enough to be in this community. And I say that sincerely. You can throw a rock on Gab and hit real white nationalists, real neo-Nazis, real anti-Semites. The goddamn fucking owner of the fucking site supports all these people and reposts their stuff all the time. So if you somehow missed it, you weren't looking, or you just didn't want to see, or you just didn't know what you were looking at. So which is it? Which is it? And the owner of Gab reposts the actual neo-Nazis all the fucking time. So he's not like, if you want to say, okay, so he's a conservative. A conservative is reposting neo-Nazis all the time on Gab too. They need, so blah, blah, blah. Twitter need to be the alternative to take Twitter's place. They need to provide more than Twitter, not less. Well, if you're supporting providing speech to neo-Nazis, I think that neo-Nazis should be perfectly free to speak because we want them revealing who they are. So Gab is an excellent place to go if you want to see who real neo-Nazis are, real white supremacists are, real white identitarians, the leaders of the white well-being movement, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because Andrew Torba will repost all of them just so people like White Wizard Alex can pretend that, oh, I just don't see anything like that. Maybe we should just stop what we're doing, stop the presentation today, and I can take you on Gab and show you how fucking easy. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's fucking do it. Let's fucking do it. You guys want to argue with me? You guys want to argue with me? I just don't know. It's just so hard on Gab to actually find real white nationalists. I just don't even know how Carlin is able to do this. It is so fucking hard. I just don't know. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Rottweiler, I'll get to your super chat in a minute. This is Gab. Well, you came off so uneducated in the first part of the comment, I didn't really bother reading the rest of it, to be honest. This is Gab. No white guilt. This right here is the leader of the white well-being movement on Gab. He goes by No White Guilt. He's also on Twitter, by the way. He's also on YouTube, by the way. You can go on here and find all sorts of amazing pro-white people content. They really don't like Jews. They really don't like brown people. You'll find all sorts of stuff right on this page, right here. This is not hidden. This guy has 9,000 followers on Gab. Let's look up white well-being. This is just so hard. This is just so hard. I just don't know how I did this. I just don't know. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting into good stuff, right? Oh, yeah, definitely not. You know. Yep. Actually, let me show you guys this. Actually, did I do this on this page? Or did I do it on the other page? I think I did it on this one. Let me show you some of the posts that have been made about me on Gab. Not there. Not there. Not there. Hang on. Not that. Oh, by the way, this article is on my Substack. I'll put this in the chat. These are examples of actual white identitarians that I covered and documented. I'll show you. This person right here, Brandt. Brandt runs an entire school for white well-being. I will show you the school's website. Hang on. It's called School of the West. Okay, let's go back to Gab. Let's go back to Gab. I can't find right now the thing I wanted to show you because I don't remember where I posted it. School of the West. It's just so hard to find neo-Nazis on Gab. I just don't know how Carlin does it. It is so hard. Oh my god. They're all secret leftists. They must be secret leftists. Let's see. Oh, is he not on here anymore? Huh. Oh, look at that. Sargon of Akkad follows me on Gab. Isn't that funny? I guess he's not on here anymore. Thank God for small favors. But I did show you the white well-being movement within about 5 seconds. And if you guys have more questions about this, you are welcome to go over onto Gab and to find it yourself. Hang on, let me just look one more thing. Let me just look at one more thing. before we go back. I really wish I had posted this on my Red Pill Diaries Substack. I don't think that I did. Let me see. Archive. Maybe they took it down. Want us to hang on, guys. Sorry to take this break. I'm just so sick of having this conversation with people. No, not that. Dang. What did I label this as? Hang on, guys. I'm just going to look. Thank you for bearing with me. There is actually something I do want to show you guys. I just don't remember the name of the article that I posted it under. And it was a while ago. Before that. I have written a lot of stuff this year. I'm going to spend about 2 more minutes looking for this, guys, and then we're going to move on, I promise. But this is actually a really important point. Dystopia, no. Hang on. Not that, not that. All right, I guess I don't know where I put it. But anyway, I did write an article a while back essentially showing exactly what I experience on Gab, and guess what? It's not good. I'll continue to look for it as we make our way through. My point is that if people are saying that it's just so hard to find neo-Nazis on Gab. No, it's not hard to find neo-Nazis on Gab. It's not hard to find neo-Nazis on Gab at all in any way. Let's go back to our presentation, which is the actual point of this. But again, if you guys want to keep arguing with me, you are more than welcome to keep arguing with me, and we just won't watch the presentation. It's entirely up to you.
National interest is doing, though I'm sure there's some role there, but there's local folks who are trafficking this stuff. And I want to show that to folks and to light a fire under them so that they go out and vote for other people.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
Because I think just hearing what you do, something that's coming up in my mind is you're really kind of directly sticking your neck out in a way that I think a lot of people, because you're local and you're posting about the local goings on of people that you could come face to face with in a grocery store. Firstly, it's incredibly brave. But secondly, it's brave.
Oh, shit.
It's incredibly brave and incredibly necessary.
I missed Rottweiler's super chat. My bad. I was so busy searching for stuff on Gab that was it Rottweiler? Sorry, not Rottweiler. Amelia has the latest super chat. Apologies, Amelia. Why do political normies have so much admiration for Antifa? When I've heard people talk about them, they'll both argue that Antifa is simply fighting white supremacy because they don't want to know what Antifa actually is. Because if they know what Antifa actually is, it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance, and it's a difficult cognitive dissonance to work through because, they buy the line, we're just against fascism. That's why we're Antifa. We're just against fascism. That's all it is. And so you have to understand that, like, when you're waking up and, like, you're presented with information that is counter to everything you've ever known to be true, that is actually a really painful process for people to go through. Okay? To experience that level of cognitive dissonance of everything I've ever been taught, like, is wrong, that is what is happening. And so, like, when people are just saying, well, Antifa is just against fascism, it's because they haven't actually looked at what's going on, because looking at what's going on would be way too painful in order to process. And as I said, White Where's It Alex, if you want to keep arguing and distracting the entire chat from what we came here to do today, the first part of your comment was so fucking ignorant and off base, it wasn't even worth reading the rest of it, bro. If you can't acknowledge simple facts and simple reality, then there's no, like, why would, if someone presents me with a bold-faced lie, why would I have any other interest in anything else that person has to say? So next time, don't lie so aggressively, and perhaps I will take the time to consider the rest of what you have to say.
To kind of shed that light, or an out right-wing venom, extreme right-wing venom. But for students and for academics alike, how do you combat the fear that kind of behavior might arouse with you, or does that make some sense to you?
Oh yeah, it does.
I think there's a lot of fear to say it, or to point it out.
The only reason I rolled my eyes when you said that is because my wife keeps telling me to stop doing this.
I thought it was something I'd said.
And I've just had to build up an attitude of...
No, we're not blocking him. He's a regular. We're not blocking him, but I'm not going to coddle him either.
This doesn't help keep this under wraps, that I'm the one who runs this, that I'm up here on this dais. Though I don't do a whole lot to keep it a secret, because it doesn't take a whole lot to figure out there's one administrator to this public group. And yet people still jump in there every now and again and say, who the hell put this up here? And my thought is, well, 2 clicks away and there's your answer. Look how I'm hiding it. It's not a fake name. It's even my picture. So I don't want to bait them by making fun of them, though that really is what the page is devoted to. But it really doesn't take a whole lot of effort to figure out who I am. Nobody's stepped to me yet, and we'll see what happens.
In other words, you feel the risk is worth the action.
Let's not get into what the risks might be, because I don't really want to.
Oh,
think
found it. I found the post I was looking for earlier. Okay, let me show you some of the things that go on Gab, and this is going to get this video instantly demonetized. Here are the things that have been posted about me on Gab. These are overtly anti-Semitic memes. This is me on. This is the type of shit on Gab I see when I log on there on a daily goddamn basis. And you guys can all check it out for yourself if you want to see this. There's one in particular that I want to show you. Oh, yeah, that's definitely not neo-Nazi. Oh, yep. Oh, definitely no neo-Nazis over on Gab. It's all just fake. These are all fake leftists. Oh, did they take down the one? Where the fuck was the one that I actually wanted to show you? Huh. Looks like they might have taken it down. Anyway, those are just a couple of the notifications that I get on Gab on a daily basis. And so you guys can go and see just how many neo-Nazis there are definitely not on Gab every single time you want to say, those are just secret leftists or Democrats. They're not secret leftists or Democrats. They never were. That was always a lie. And the people that are posting that shit are usually the same people that are being promoted by the CEO of Gab. I hope I've made my point.
Listen, I know there are people in my community, people on my street who are distributing these memes and things like this around. I don't think they think they're doing anything bad. but I disagree with them because I think it normalizes certain things. I think a large part of the communication that is put out in these forums is just intended to aggravate the left. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I'd written here in preparation for this. You scroll through and you'll find stuff about flat Earth, 5G, genetic modification.
What's wrong with flat Earth?
Schools, gender in libraries, anti-vax, anti-9/11.
Did you guys just hear how he just conflated gender in schools with flat Earth? Listen to this again.
Is just intended to aggravate the left. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I'd written here in preparation for this. You scroll through and you'll find stuff about flat Earth, 5G, genetic modification, gender in schools, gender in libraries, anti-vax, anti-9/11. And there was a post about one of my local candidates' genitals. And there's no focus to it. It's just scattershot, constant chaos, attempts to derail any kind of thread of conversation about anything. And so I'm just trying to, what am I going to do? I see that it's happening. I feel obligated to share it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for doing it. Okay, so our other panelist has arrived, and let me introduce her. Hi, this is Dr. Eve Krief. This is Dr. Eve Krief. I deduced some of your bio, so hopefully that would be okay. She's a pediatrician. She's a pediatrician here in Long Island, and she's also the treasurer of the New York State American Academy of Pediatrics, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
And she is
exactly.
part of the Long Island Physicians for National Health Program. Dr. Okay. I started out, the first question, just to catch you up, the first question that I posed is a question that has been kind of been an elephant in the room throughout the last 2 days, and that is, what is to be done? We've had a lot of panels that have talked about, cultural creations and expressions of anti-fascism, theoretical expressions of anti-fascism, and I think that there's a burning question that you all as activists on the ground can hopefully shed some light on, and that is, what is to be done, what more needs to be done. If you want me to, can I address it? Okay, let me.
Does this work? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to who controls the truth, and I think that's what first started alarming me in 2016, when even before Trump became president, he would say things that were completely untrue, and it was just spewed by everybody else, and that's obviously become the issue right now. It's who controls the truth and the spread of misinformation. And I think there's a few things that we can do. It's to make noise and to educate the public when there is a problem. When they were separating children at the border, that a lot of what they do is dehumanize the other side. They like to, I think, a fascist likes. What I feel is that all humans are capable of great good and great evil, right? And it's leaders that will form people's opinions, right? So they can either inspire people, make them do
exactly.
good, or they can appeal
it's not
to their
1984 at all,
and inspire them to do great evil. The people, during World War II and the Holocaust, right? They, in Germany and the rest of Europe, they were just like you and me, right? They're people. we're all humans throughout history, right? We're all the same. We have the same, makeup, and we are easily influenced, by people who are good speakers and just appeal to us and make us feel better than a lot of what we've seen the past few years.
Okay, White Wizard Alex is still complaining, so he's getting a timeout now.
More powerful.
He can go take his feelings somewhere else.
Better than somebody else, better than immigrants, better than LGBTQ people, better than Jewish people, better than
keeps
Black
whining,
people,
he will get blocked.
Better, than anything that's different, and that's what they appeal to, and then they use also just the distortion of truth to appeal to that, like with the separated children, when they clicked in me, and I knew that I could not stay silent. So whether that was holding, I can't even tell you how many rallies we organized on a variety of issues, the two of us together, and just letting people know, always speaking truth, spreading the truth. And obviously that's playing into politics. As a pediatrician, we see the control of truth, morph into control of science and fact as well. And I'm also a big I'm outspoken on vaccine encouragement, education, activism, you could say. But they try to control the truth on that as well, and that it harms society, right? We're literally putting our children, our communities at risk because of the spread of misinformation, and you see a lot of
people are literally dying.
Intermixing of anti-science with a lot of this polarization of hate as well, with doctors now being attacked, say at Boston Children's Hospital, because they offer care to transgender children who are now on the list of the other and people that are being hated. So it's just this great morph of
these are college professors, guys. These are college professors. And people are confused. They're like, this doesn't look like Antifa. These look like put together people, right? Where do you think Antifa comes from? Who do you think is teaching the usually mentally ill activists that go out into the street with the masks that are throwing shit and setting stuff on fire? These people are the teachers of Antifa. These people are the ones that are articulating the ideas that then result in the mentally insane activists that you see in Black Bloc.
Just othering everybody to raise them to feel better. And it's just about spreading truth, speaking truth, not being intimidated, trying to educate the public as much as you can, and obviously getting very engaged in the political system, making people understand why their vote is so very important. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No,
I kind of was
quite
of a flight of ideas there. Sorry.
Thank you. Can I turn it back over to Nathan?
Sure. Well, I don't think I can answer Lennon's question any better than Maurice Bishop or Thomas Sankara have. So I would point to them. But I would say in terms of what is to be done or what is being done, what should be being done, if you picked up one of these when you walked in, our conference directors, have sort of outlined fascist ideology and its attendant components as opposition to working class movements, hyper-nationalism, anti-democracy, white supremacy, and xenophobia. And so I think one thing that we can do and should do is to make anti-fascism great again. If those are things that you are against, then you are in fact an anti-fascist. And I think there are a lot of people out there walking around who, whether it's lack of awareness of the term or the history or the ideology, don't necessarily think of themselves as anti-fascists. But when you look at that list and you say, oh, I'm against those things, then you are an anti-fascist. And I think a lot of the ideation of what it means to be anti-fascist or Antifa is controlled or colored by mainstream right-wing media. And unfortunately, there's not enough pushback from mainstream. I don't know that there is a left-wing media, center-left media, let's say. There's not enough pushback to saying,
there's no left-wing media at all.
You're portraying
doesn't exist.
Doesn't really exist out there in the real world. I think one of the participants in the conference yesterday was talking about how there is some statistics now where it's all of these incidents out there. It's 90% of so-called anti-fascists, north of 90%. There's no violence at all, and when there is violence,
they're mostly peaceful protests.
It's instigated by fascists or by law enforcement. So anyway, all of that to say that one thing I think we can do is talk to our friends and neighbors about I'm an anti-fascist, and here
these people are like when Antifa is burning down a police station, it's because the police instigated the violence in the first place by simply existing. I don't know what the problem is. The police are fascist because they come from the people who would catch runaway slaves, and so they're racist, white supremacist fascists. They instigated violence by being racist, white supremacist fascists. So we had to burn down the police station because they instigated it first. See, this guys is why like, I block people so liberally in my chat because this guy is saying it's no big deal if white identitarians are on Gabs and they have thousands of followers. Oh, the horror, 9,000 people. That's 9,000 more people than most people think exist in this movement, bro. So you can go and join your little racist friends on Gab. Goodbye.
Here's why, and here's what that really means, and bring more people into the fight.
Thank you. Can I just say, I would also like to take back the whole phrase and say anti-fascist, because I think that labeling this, I'm just going to say on my own, I think that when the right-wing media labels us as Antifa, I think that it cuts off the thrust of what it is we're doing and what we're about.
What are you doing? What are you about?
Dangerous kind of slope, because you can just shove that aside. Oh, that's Antifa. They're so crazy. And I think when you have to actually articulate anti-fascist, that's a much more difficult thing to overtly go against, at least for most people. Okay, so Shoshan.
So something that you really sparked for me is when you talked about the 4 prongs, the labor, race, environment, and the fourth one was forced birth, right?
Yeah, forced birth.
And the thing that really struck me was, for all of those reasons, Long Island is a breeding ground for fascism. And, when I think about labor, and I think about inequity, and it's across so many places in this country, but Long Island, when you go, you can cross the street and live in a different world depending on your zip code. And I think that also when you think about the fact that we are one of the most segregated areas in the country by both socioeconomics and race, and when you think about the environment, like I live in the town of Brookhaven, which has the Brookhaven landfill, which collects the garbage of 2 million Long Islanders, and it sits in a Black and brown community, which has the lowest life expectancy on all of Long Island. And then you put all of that together and you think about the fact that on Long Island, also Black maternal health is something that, is further at risk than, their white counterparts. So when you put all of that together, if you don't have a strong vision and an alternative, fascism will breed. And I think that's why we've seen what we've seen here on Long Island, because quite frankly, I don't believe most politicians in the center left have offered an alternative vision that says, this is the world we want to see. This is the alternative to this. And when you don't offer a strong alternative, the room for that demagoguery exists, and there's a vacuum, and that hate can flourish in that vacuum. So what do? You present a strong alternative vision, you put your skin in the game, you put your neck out there, and it's not fun. Not gonna lie, not fun. I think, but I think it's absolutely 100% necessary. There's no alternative.
I think everybody in this room agrees with that. Can I also ask, just to follow up on something that you said, because I live in an area. LA has, I don't know how. I live in Los Angeles, so it's odd pairing, although great, because I'm very much so not local to Long Island, and so I'm not familiar with the local politics and the local groups. But I am familiar with what you're saying about this kind of atomization by zip code. Los Angeles is a huge city and an even bigger county, and there are tribal demarcations based on area codes. We have multiple area codes, so you're either from the 310 or the 818 or the 323 and 562. That's 4 off the top of my head in front of a bunch of people. So
is my mic much louder now than it was before?
Suburban, more conservatives, almost edging into Orange County would be 562. There's a large Jewish community in the 818. 323 is downtown, and the politics are very different. So just as a follow-up question to that, how do you bridge that division and find common ground? So, and to present what you're going to do and what the agenda is, and to present that alternative in a way that would resonate with people from so many different walks of life that are all in that same area.
I think you have to have a really broad coalition, and I think that you have to let the people lead in their communities. And I think one of the greatest examples of organizing I've seen is this community, the Brookhaven Landfill Action and Remediation Group, which came out of the George Floyd murders and started as a Black Lives Matter group, but then realized that it was connected to this environmental injustice in this area. And I'm a member of that group, but I will never lead that group because it needs to be led by that community. And I think that when we start going into the places that, when we leave our zip code, when we leave our little, silos and enclaves, I think then we have the opportunity to make those connections and meet people. And we each have a role to play. And as long as we know that, when I'm sitting in this landfill meeting, I'm there to support, I'm there to lend a hand, but I am not there to lead because I'm not directly impacted. And I think that starting to understand who is directly impacted in which issue and how you can be a part of the movement and where you lead and where sometimes you're the support is really crucial to building that coalition.
When it's time to step back,
yeah,
so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or to activate sleeper cells.
Yeah.
Did you want to add to that?
Or when to activate sleeper cells?
There's no real
what?
sleeper cells, just to be clear.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, I've studied the politics of Suffolk County from the inside.
All right. White Wizard Alex. I am sick of your whining in the chat. I have told you to stop several times. The only reason you haven't been banned at this point is because you have been a regular on my channel for a minute. So you're getting another timeout because you didn't learn from the first timeout, and you're still whining in my chat. The next time that you continue to whine in my chat will be the last thing that you ever say in my chat. And I don't like blocking people who are regulars on the channel, but when you repeatedly break the rules after you have been told to stop by the moderators, you've been told to stop by me, you have been timed out multiple times, then the next step is that you're going to get blocked. I don't want to do that, but if you keep breaking the rules of the chat, which you damn well know because you're a regular, that's what's going to happen.
And what I just to put a finer point on what Shoshana was saying, the leadership is heavily top down, and the whole, say, political apparatus seems to function primarily to protect the political fate of those people at the top in the county and in the assembly and in the state senate. And so to affect that, the theory seems to be to keep local political parties weak and unpopulated and unstaffed. We have this whole apparatus of hiring people into or electing people into committees, and they're kept usually around half full intentionally, so that if someone were to pose a challenge to leadership, they could quickly appoint 50, 60, 70 people who would then show up and vote against you, and then they could just maintain their control. But I mean, I was at a local political committee election, and they were handing out scripts for how to execute how to dispense with the bylaws because they didn't have quorum, and they didn't have quorum because they announced the wrong date for the election and people didn't show up. Was that on purpose? They said Wednesday, the 17th of October, the election would be held, and that was Monday. So go figure. Anyway, yeah. So, and these are opportunities too. You could take control if folks knew how to organize and take that apparatus back. And it takes leadership, as Shoshana was saying.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which question I'm responding to, but I think
how to bridge the atomization.
Yeah, I mean, bridging the atomization, I think, build sleeper cells would be one way to do it. Is meet people in your local community, establish relationships, talk to them about these kinds of ideas. In Adolph Reed's keynote yesterday, which was great, and when it hits the internet, everybody go watch it. But I hope he was being too pessimistic when he was talking about, and I'll butcher the quote here, but something along the lines of, we're laying the groundwork now that will be found by those fighting for liberation in a future era, in the aftermath of coming fascist oppression. I hope that's wrong. Let's do what we can to prevent it. But he really stressed the need for both immediate efforts and long-term planning. and the need to build political organization that is capable of advancing working class interests. So I think that that is one thing that we can do to bridge that gap, right? Because there is a mutual class interest across the working class, regardless of zip code, that can unite us. And, obviously the elites that control the mainstream political apparatus, don't want us to find out about that mutual interest and try to prevent it, which, I think is along the lines of what you're saying. But so, find that mutual interest, find community across that class line, the working class line, and, fight for each other.
And specifically when you're talking about combating the kind of hate that I was talking about. So after Charlottesville, I founded this group called Long Island Inclusive Communities Against Hate. And we reached out to different faiths. I reached out. I remember going to like the Catholic church in town and telling him my mother's story and asking him to join the group, and just visited with different
I just want to point out that these Antifa professors are doing significantly more community activism than any group on the right is doing. They're reaching out to different religious leaders to have conversations about how they can support Antifa. Like, if you guys wonder, listen, I think Amelia earlier in the chat asked, like, why do people on the left support Antifa? Well, because Antifa actually reaches out to them. Antifa goes and meets with them. Antifa goes and talks to them. Who on the right is doing that? Anyone? Moms for Liberty goes and yells at school board meetings about banning books. That's all they do. They're not reaching out to community organizations. Well, no, this person is talking about doing this on her own. She's not state funded. Like, well, no, John M., that's wrong. That's actually directly contradicting what I'm trying to explain to you right now and what she just said. She just said she goes out, does outreach to these local community organizations to talk about what they're doing, to talk about their values, to talk about what they believe in. To say that's not building anything is just wrong. It is absolutely wrong. They're the only ones building. What group on the right is reaching out to local community organizations to get them on their side in a strategic way? Anyone? That's why they win and the right loses.
Faith congregations in our area in Huntington. And, we partner with the Latino community when,
exactly.
Attacks on
exactly.
And we've just, we've formed a coalition there just because, we know when they're coming after, one group, they're going to go after another group the next time. So, so it's really important to form partnerships among everyone that can be othered and attacked, so that when one group is attacked, we all come out. So we had many rallies supporting the immigrant community. And when there was a rise in anti-Semitism, the first rise in anti-Semitism a couple of years now, we're, I guess, in the midst of the second one. But a few years back, after the Tree of Life synagogue, and there were other attacks across New York State, they came out in support of the Jewish community. So it's important to stand together. Also, just every town in Suffolk is supposed to have an anti-bias task force that ideally should have on it officials, elected officials, educators, and invested community members. And they all a report from the police precinct on hate incidents and crimes, and we have a very functional one in Huntington right now. I think there's one in Islip as well. But that's an important way also, just to bring everybody together to stand against hate. Unfortunately, not all the political parties will come to those meetings, but it's supposed to represent a bipartisan group against hate, and to keep track of it in our communities.
Let me continue on with another question that's within the same frame, and that is something I think, Nathan, that you mentioned, which is, there's long-term goals and there's short-term goals. I'll ask you on a local level, because we're supposed to be talking about local activism. If you can pull it out to a larger, then I'm all ears. But what I'll go across, but what do you see as the short versus long-term goals, or what are, at least here, if not globally?
I mean, I think the long-term goal, there was talk a lot yesterday about, sort of force and counterforce of fascism and anti-fascism. I think the long-term goal is to build that counterforce that can stand against the tide of those elements of, again, opposition to working class movements, hyper-nationalism, anti-democracy, white supremacy, and xenophobia. All of which you see playing out certainly at the national level, and in different aspects on the local level as well. So in the long term, build that counterforce. And I think, like Dr. Dalton and I were talking earlier about looking for the stuff and attacking it online on social media, which I certainly think there's a place for, and his work sounds great, and you should all be doing it in your local communities as well. But I think taking it offline as well is important. And, being so as a short-term goal, I would say, is to, form a neighborhood watch, be on the lookout for fascists in your community, and for, their messaging and the manifestations of their ideology. I live in Rockville Center, where the Southern Poverty Law Center says the Proud Boys have a chapter based there, and they have marched there, twice through town. We've had flyers distributed by the Goyim Defense League. So, anti-Semitism is having a moment in the national news right now, but it's part of all of this, and so I would look for those local manifestations, fight them, push back, ask questions, of local politicians, local law enforcement, the Human Rights or Civil Rights Commission. We have one locally, and it has never met. And the mayor said that's because we don't have any civil rights issues, which was interesting to learn. So anyway, I'll stop there. But
hang on, I've got a super chat from Amelia. Amelia, thank you for the super chat. As an artist, it's so pathetic that conservatives can't even like a viral song without speculating that the singer is a plant or a hidden leftist. The grumbling is a constant state of impotence. It's sad. The constant conspiracy theories coming out from the right. And listen, conspiracy theories are fun to like play around with and enjoy. Right? Like I enjoy learning about flat earth. I think flat earth is like an interesting kind of school of thought. Not that I think the earth is flat, but I think that the different kind of like perspective, it's just like an interesting thought experiment. That's all it is. They're fun to talk about. They're fun to consider. However, like conspiracy theories on the right go way out of proportion with like, they're not just having fun with it. They're not just kind of like kicking around an idea that's interesting to talk about. They really do effing believe it. And it's like, especially with the election stuff. And I'm someone that believes that I think the election in 2020 was fortified, exactly like they wrote about in Time magazine. Right? But do I go on and on and on all day about like Dominion, voting machines? It's like, no, bro, there was no Kraken. There never was. That was a QAnon conspiracy theory. Like you at some point you got to stop because you sound crazy. And it gets in the way of everything else. And it's like, like relax.
My goal is, my thinking is that why work to start a whole new apparatus to push back when there's one already there? So I'm outing myself as a Democrat. Except for that, in my years-long push to get the party to be somewhat responsive to its membership or aspiring members, they've done nothing but push back and push back and push back. So you can try to do it from the inside, which I've learned. They don't want that. They see you coming a mile away, and the obstacles were put up before you showed up. Or you could try to find a way to wrangle the power away from them, which may have to be the next move of mine. But that gets me down a whole other path besides what I've done with my little Facebook page.
It's not at all. That's pretty big. Dr. Priya?
Short and long-term goals.
Yeah, short and long-term goals as you see it, as a pediatrician, as an activist.
Short-term goals, just get the facts out there and increase empathy. Share stories. Long-term goal, save our democracy. Yeah.
I'd say short-term goals is spotting those moments in your own communities. Please try again. A lot of things have gone wrong. It's okay.
Tell me about it, Siri.
Siri, how do we defeat fascism?
She might have the answer. We just haven't asked. But I think, we've seen it on Long Island quite a bit. Like, for example, in a library board where they were trying to ban books, like the Pride display in the children's section. And then
and the book banning comes back again
during the elections, and there was it turned into a full-fledged fight for a library board. And our school board seemed to look the same way. And Eve's a school board member; she can spill the tea. But I think that we have to recognize that it's not just a DC thing or an Albany thing. It's a your block, it's a your schools thing. And I think as a teacher, for me, it is making sure that my classroom is a safe space, it is a welcoming space, and it is a space where we speak the truth and where we talk about all of these issues and we don't shy away from it. And if some kid from Turning Point USA is filming me secretly and sticking it up online, so be it. We just have to be.
You mean like one of your students? You mean like a kid from Turning Point who is probably in your class because he's one of your students? These people truly have no idea that conservatives actually exist as just normal people out in the world. It's not like Turning Point's going to proactively target this person. Turning Point has no idea who this person even is. But if there happens to be a Turning Point student in the class and she's saying crazy leftist Antifa shit, yeah, I can absolutely envision in a reality in which that Turning Point student has their phone out to film their crazy teachers. These people truly believe that all their college students are just leftists and it's their job to indoctrinate the leftists. No, it's actually your job to teach, and some of your kids that you're teaching might be conservative.
Ready to do this work in the short term because the vacuum is what is most dangerous. And I think that the long-term goal is empowering people and giving them the skills to do the work with us. Because I think that right now, the work is often in a very small concentration of hands, not because people don't care, but because one, people are afraid, two, people don't know what the first step is. And I think so much of what we have to do is that education piece to give people the motivation and also the steps forward. And that's my teacher brain thinking about how do we train the next generation.
Yeah, I like that. Did you want to add it?
Why are teachers talking about training the next generation to be Antifa activists?
I think some of what you were saying about there being kind of a vacuum, to some degree, I think what you're bringing up, Dr. Dalton, about please correct me if I'm misquoting you or paraphrasing you, but that there's a pushback in the hierarchy of the Democratic Party that is thwarting the ability to make changes in a grassroots level on the ground in school boards and running candidates that may not fit the bill of this kind of top-down leadership. What would be the prescriptive for that? Because I think what you articulated is something that at least I sense also on a national level. When you look at the Sanders campaign in 2016 and the bending over backwards to stop his ability to continue. So I think it
ended 2020
fruit, an example of that, and universally understood. But how do you combat that? You're working from within, so you're in this. You have a good vantage.
You do what he does, which is organize, and I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So I go home and take my kid to soccer, or take care of my college kid on the phone, or run out to see him, or I go to work and I do and I'm a den leader for Scouts and all this other stuff that I do. But really, what he does, and I tell this to people in politics all the time.
Is White Wizard Alex talking about how I'm triggered in the chat now? That seriously better not be happening, because if it is, White Wizard Alex is going to get banned. And I'm going to go back and look. But I'm tired of it, guys. Like, we've already been distracted enough by the complaining and the whining of White Wizard Alex. It's going to stop now. If it doesn't, I'm going to make sure it stops.
Time. You've got to do the shoe leather retail work. And if you're not doing that, you're scratching at the surface, maybe, and you may be causing yourself to think you're actually doing work when you're not. So, and I'm kind of reticent to take praise for the kind of work that I've done, because it may do a little bit, but I'm not going to make believe that it's doing the real groundwork that needs to be done.
So Nathan.
I'm also raising children, by the way. Yeah, and it is difficult, right, to walk and chew gum at the same time, but we really have to on these issues. Yeah, I know, look, I think, again, and I know I keep repeating myself here, but one thing that we have to do is like go out and talk to folks who we don't necessarily, there's gonna be some people we're not gonna be able to convince, right? But is to talk to people that we don't necessarily know, are in full agreement with us on various
Dragon
issues.
Water.
But talk to them about these things, and part of a group of parents that I've tried to help organize in my local town, and again, this is like the kind of thing I would say everybody should be trying to do, is put together this group of parents that care about maybe different issues to different degrees, but that again are intersectional around these these ideas that we're talking about, and to then organize, educate amongst those that group of folks, talk about these issues, and then organize and weaponize, right? I don't know if I want to call her out by name, but one of those parents from the group of folks that I'm part of is in the audience tonight, and you need people with different skill sets and different abilities to be part of that group. And she's someone who, somebody else from the group said, hey, the Proud Boys are marching through town. She jumped in her car, drove to where they were marching, confronted them face to face, took video of them, called them out, told them to get out of our town. A little harsher words than that, but not everybody who you're going to talk to has that bravery. And so you need people who are brave, who are there on the front line. You need people who are going to show up for a rally of 30 people or 100 people or whatever it is to speak out against hate, to speak out against fascism. You need people who are willing to write a letter to the mayor or make a phone call. Organize, agitate, get people together, get people talking about these issues. Super important.
I will say that just from my I teach history, so I will historicize that, and I will say that a lot of what you're saying is resonating with me, because this is what the Nazis did. After
you mean the
Wehrmacht
socialists
in 1923, and Hitler went to jail and wrote Mein Kampf, which nobody read, thankfully. I mean, or maybe they should have. The Nazi apparatus decided consciously to go very, very grassroots. That big shows, big, huge moments weren't going to work, and they very consciously went very, very grassroots. And I think somebody at a panel yesterday was talking about, you go where they go. You don't want to follow completely, but that there's a logic to that, and I think that's kind of what you're echoing here, is that organize as locally as you possibly can to tentacle away, or to get the tentacles out of the Proud Boys out of Long Island. Okay, so I have another question here, which is, so I had articulated, where am I had brought up, yeah, here I am. So I brought up those 4 prongs of what I, in my mind, distilled from all the really diverse panels that have been presented over the last 2 days. And again, I put down labor, race, environment, forced birth, culture wars. I think I forgot to bring that up. What do you see in Long Island, or what do you see as the first prong?
VT Numass, how do you convince these people that they're wrong too? You don't. You will never convince these people that they're wrong. These people should not be the goal. The goal should be to wake up people in the middle and disaffected lefties. That's what the goal should be. Now, that's never going to happen in the current reality. And I hope people understand that. And I hope people understand why. The conservative right had an opportunity after 2020 to continue some sort of big tent movement where they invited everyone in and they didn't care about gay people and they weren't constantly attacking trans people and they weren't doing the racist bullshit that they're doing today. They squandered that opportunity. Had the conservative right continued what existed in 2020, then we would be much further along in defeating these people today, because it would have continued to wake people up and get more people to defect from the Democratic Party so that they could be a part of something different. Sadly, that did not happen. And since then, basically every single person who disaffected from the left in 2020 that I know they haven't gone back to the left, but they've opted out entirely from like everything, or they're like, as crazy as it sounds, they're going to vote for Democrats because they think that Democrats are preferable to conservatives with the way that conservatives are acting today. So you can't ever wake these people up. That should have never been the point. It should have never been the goal. The goal should have been to use these people to wake up people in the middle, because they're the only ones that are ever going to really make the difference. Sadly, the conservative right makes that impossible. So it is what it is, I suppose.
What do you see out of those criteria?
But there's so many prongs. Now, honestly, I mean, I feel like there's no one answer. I think that the culture wars have certainly come, and we're watching them play out in so many ways. You see them in our school board meetings. You see them in doctors' offices. But to me, again, I come from an education-centered perspective. I think that when they lost in 2020, and there was this initial burst of success in 2021 with the vaccine and the American Rescue Plan.
Yes, the vaccines have been so successful.
They went super local,
indeed,
like you said, and went to our schools and started with like the critical race theory stuff, and like really went down to where the most basic emotional impetus, which is our children. Like that is 100% by design. And they're coming for our schools because if that next generation knows truth, then the world changes for the better. Not the better for fascists, but I think that's why they're, like if you follow these school board meetings, which I have across Long Island, it's part of my work, and across the state, it is the same script in every place. So if it's like, if you hear it in Comac on Tuesday, it happens in Smithtown on Wednesday, and then over in my community in Three Village on Thursday. And it's like playing whack-a-mole. It's like it's like, we're going to ban this book. Then you go through that round. Then it's like, we're going to go after.
Thank you, Moms for Liberty, for making it so easy for these people to figure you out and beat you. What she's talking about right now is the Moms for Liberty playbook. Because God damn it. Moms for Liberty has done more damage to the anti-woke movement than almost any other organization on the planet. I promise you. Moms for Liberty hand victory after victory after victory after victory to the left, and they literally don't even realize what they're doing because they don't listen to anything the left says or does.
This website, and it just keeps circling, and now it's transgender kids and pronouns, and it's like it's one after the other. And I really think that we have to, within our schools, send a message that there is no place for it, and that these kids deserve to have a space where they are safe, where they are welcome, where they are nurtured, and that stuff doesn't come in those doors. And I think that if we can do that, that is a major first step to defeating fascism and to preventing it in the next generation.
Dr. Q?
There was a hand there.
Oh, I'm so. Should we? Sure. Come to the microphone because it's being recorded.
We'll go to the microphone because it's being recorded.
I'm an educator as well, that I think that public education, which has been under attack for at least 20 years, as we all are pretty much aware of, I think we've got to be more willing to admit that public education is a political project. And as a result, we want to create better informed citizens who can participate in our still remaining democracy. And I think there's a lot of people in education that are reluctant to do that. And we had an issue in Rockville Center where a social studies teacher was basically trying to analyze various ideas out there and try to help the kids understand them from a critical perspective.
Critical perspective means Marxism.
From Ibram Kendi.
Marxist.
Created a firestorm.
Because he's a Marxist.
And there weren't enough people standing up and saying, hey, no. Education really is about trying to create people who are able to critically appraise any form of information or idea.
Anytime you hear the term critical in relation to the schools or critical theory, where does that come from? This is a pop quiz for the chat. When he's saying that the teacher tried to use like explain the students from a critical perspective or critically appraise, where does that come from? Anyone in the chat? Frankfurt School, what is it? When you hear the term critical, as in we're trying to get the students to take a critical perspective. CRT, yes. Yes. Marcus Fieri, yes. Exactly. Frankfurt School, but what is the specific critical theory? Critical race theory is a subset of critical theory. Critical gender studies is a subset of critical theory. Critical queer studies is a subset of critical theory. All the different identity, politic, social justice things are a subset of critical theory, and that comes from the Frankfurt School, which is Marxism, 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 Marxism. Very good, everyone. Well done. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. People forget that the first ones to start raising against CRT and other Marxist manifestos weren't conservatives. They elevated conservatives only for them to be vilified and alienated by the Walsh conservatives. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's actually very true. It was not actually conservatives who first started raising this issue. It was the so-called classical liberals who first started raising this issue. That's what I think anyway, Rottweiler. Let me know if you think something different. I do appreciate it.
And I don't think we do that enough in public education. I've been in public education for 35 years. And so, we try to create this notion.
Then why don't you know that critical theory is Marxism?
I agree with you. It should be a safe space where kids should be able to grow and become who all they're capable of becoming, if you want to use that phrase. But it's just annoying that, see somebody like Glenn Youngkin basically trying to say, parents, you have a choice. You can pull your kids out. I'm a lifelong health educator to sex education, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Oh, good.
So,
good.
I know all about these fights. And when you look at...
By the way, guys, comprehensive sex education is Marxism. Just so you're all aware.
By and large, 85% of people think, I don't want to deal with telling my kids about sexuality. You do it. But the devil's in the details. So I just wanted to comment that I agree with you that schools have to be, but I think we have to acknowledge schools as a political project that follow in Dewey's notion of schools as communities coming together and helping people to think together as a community to solve problems and not necessarily. It is important. That's where the battle lies. That you talked about anti-critical race theory, the transgender, and all that stuff. I mean, those are all sort of smokescreens that are promoting fascism, if you will.
Yeah. I want to respond though, because so much of what you said, and I come from public ed, and I know the way the schools work. I think that teachers aren't being empowered enough, and that their administrations don't have their backs often enough when they make those big, bold moves. And reading Kendi shouldn't be big and bold because it's good writing, but
Kendi is a literal Marxist. You can find an interview with Ibram X. Kendi on our favorite socialist book publishers, Haymarket Books' YouTube channel, because Kendi is a literal effing Marxist.
I also think that we have to dispel the notion that learning is comfortable. Because it's not supposed to be. Like when you work out a muscle, you're going to be sore the next day. When you work your brain, it should hurt a little. It shouldn't all just be easily digestible. And I think that that is going to require our profession, and not I wouldn't say not just the rank and file, but the people at the top in leadership. It always comes back to bad leadership, doesn't it? Who are willing to push back and say, like,
we need to figure out who this woman is and look her up, because this woman is a problem.
You got to learn what you got to learn, because that's the world.
Yeah, I just want to say too, I mean, as far as like, taking these fights to the school board, I mean, the culture warriors on the other side have said that's what they're doing, right? In one of the presentations yesterday, they quoted Steve Bannon, who said, we're gonna win the future in the school boards. I'm sure I'm butchering that.
Pop quiz in the chat. This is going to be a little bit tougher of a pop quiz, but we're really going to see who's paying attention now. Why is it that if conservatives won every single school board in the state of New York where this presentation is taking place, why would it make absolutely no difference in terms of what is actually taught in the schools if every school board in the state of New York was controlled by conservatives? Why would it make absolutely no difference at all? Which means that it would have been a useless endeavor to try to undertake it, because it will make no difference at all. Yes, school boards do not determine curriculum in the state of New York. School boards don't set the curriculum. School boards have no power over the curriculum. School boards don't set the curriculum. School boards have no power. No control over the curriculum. Exactly. Well done. I'm really impressed. I'm actually really impressed with how many people knew the answer to that. If you do not live in the state of Vermont or the state of Connecticut, your school boards have no power over the classroom curriculum at all.
That quote again, but and I think too, like, it's important to keep in mind that yes, of course, fight this at a local level, but also to keep in mind that these are local manifestations of an international issue, and that you see, this rise and electoral political success globally, whether it's in Italy with Meloni or Viktor Orban in Hungary, that's happening. And Dr. Gerald Horne has talked about how, historically fascism arises in order to repress a surging left and left-led political parties. And I certainly don't think we're there yet on Long Island or in the United States. But he also talks about how it would be a mistake to assume that there, was no mass base for fascism in Germany, and that there's no mass base for fascism here in the United States. So that's something else that I think we very much need to keep in mind, is that
unless you live in Vermont or Connecticut, your school board has no power over curriculum. So I strongly doubt that your local school board has a lot of power over anything. And even in those states, they don't have a lot of power. This myth that school boards control everything was a lie that conservatives told to their audiences to distract them from real issues, because that's all they really know how to do. We actually, Jules, a while back, we actually watched a presentation from Mark Bray for Socialism Saturday on this exact subject. So we've done that before. If people haven't seen it, I would definitely go look it up, because it was interesting. All right, guys, we're going to watch this for about a few more minutes, and then I got to wrap up for the day. I apologize we didn't get through the full presentation, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Let's spend a few more minutes listening.
If a counterforce is not presented, if a different ideology is not presented, people are looking for answers to the world that they see around them that does not offer a lot of answers. And so they're going to latch onto something, and that, fascism is there, offering an answer. So we have to offer a counter answer.
Dr. Dalton?
Yeah, my response to the idea that we have all these prongs, these different fronts to fight on, it reminds me of Hillary Clinton running for president. And when she lost, I had students gnashing teeth. And I said, well, what was she for? And they'd give me that smile like, oh, you got me. Because they couldn't articulate it clearly. They just knew they were with her, and were disappointed that she lost, and more disappointed that Trump had won. My thinking there is pick something to be for. This is my pro tips for Democrats, is pick something you're going to advocate for and solidify a coalition around it, so that when you have these smaller issues that come up locally, the coalition's there. They've already fought for something. They've already identified with one another. They have the phone numbers and the phone tree and everything else. It's already put together. But that doesn't seem to be what is the guiding knowledge of the political elites on the left, anyway.
You have a question? Okay.
I'll keep both of them very short. I was sitting over here, so I was sitting behind a dozen students.
I keep watching.
And I
oh, your microphone.
You're too tall or it's too short.
I know. It's the start of my life. So I was sitting over here, sitting behind these students, and I was thinking, forgive me if I draw you into this conversation like this. You haven't asked it, but I'm thinking, what if one of them came up to me afterwards and said, what should I do? What should I do to gain control over my life, or to shape my future in a way that I feel comfortable with? Now, one part of the answer, I would know what to tell them. And that is, if you get a job, if there's a union, join the union. If there isn't a union, form the union. Make sure it's a democratic union. Make sure it's a union controlled by the rank and file.
Gain as much power as possible
in your life, in your place of work. So that's an easy one. But if they do want to get involved in kind of a little more mega politics, the ones that you're, Phil, are involved in, what should we tell them? Should they fight to reform or to take back the Democratic Party to make it something that it's not? Should we tell them to go and hope to create a third alternative? What am I going to tell?
I want to really point this out for people who don't follow these people. They do not like the Democratic Party. They want to take over the Democratic Party. These people are actively trying to influence the Democratic Party and are doing so successfully, because if we go back and we listen to their talking points from 3, 4, 5 years ago, those are the talking points of the Democratic Party today. And even so, these people do not like the Democratic Party because they do not believe that they are left enough.
Oh, one of them, when after this talk they come up and say, okay, I want to get involved. What should we do?
I have one suggestion, and it is, if you can get 10 friends together who show up and walk when politicians need people to walk, politicians will show up in your backyard to talk with you, and they'll talk with your friends. Because at the end of the day, they need those retail people out in the streets, licking envelopes, sending out cards, and going to doors. And if you can marshal 10 of them, you're a player. And it sounds like it actually is more work than it sounds like when I just say it's only 10. But nevertheless, if you can pull that off, you'll be on somebody's black book. They'll be calling you and wanting to get to know you better.
Ethan?
Hang on.
There's strength in numbers.
Hang on. Well, I got to go in a minute. They don't like the Dems. Bro, that's simple fact. Like, that's simple fact. They don't like them. They talk about how much they hate them, like, literally all the time. So I don't know what you want. Like, that's just simple fact. All right, guys. Sadly, I do have to head out because I have a community Zoom call starting in about 10 minutes. I do apologize we didn't get through the full presentation today, but that's what happens when my chat decides to argue with me. Because that is just the way it goes. If you do want to join my community Zoom, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Number one, you can subscribe to the best way to do it, and the way I would most strongly recommend, is by subscribing to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. You can always subscribe for free, of course, but in order to get invited to my community Zoom on Monday, which starts in about 10 minutes at 7 p.m., we also do one on Wednesdays at noon. Occasionally, we do a Saturday one. We do movie nights on Sunday. There's a writers group that happens on Thursdays. There's all sorts of stuff going on in my community. But the way to get in on all of that is to head over to my Substack and sign up as a paying subscriber for $8 a month or $80 a year. And then what you want to do is go to this Unwoke Roundup email. It's on the homepage right now, right in the middle. And then once you get in, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, because that is where we have our supporter perks. And the supporter perks include the Zoom links. They include the Discord link, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to join us for that Zoom call, head over to the newsletter. Make sure you're a supporter, and you will get access to those supporter perks. And you can come and join us for a chat in about 8 minutes. Guys, I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.